Hi there, my name is Jack Burgess. This time I want to talk about taking photos of your layout. My thought is that maybe you have a section on your layout that you've been working on, you're pretty proud of, but it's not finished. I want to show you how to take photos of your layout that you can get published in the magazines. And maybe then you would see your photo in a magazine and say, wow, that really looks good. I'm going to keep on going and continue work on your layout. And that's what, to me, that's what the hobby is about. So I want to start with some photos that I've taken of my own layout to give you some examples. I'll talk about how I did some of them and so forth. So this first photo is the station of Merced on my layout. It was taken to represent an early morning, and so I turned the lights on in the station, and I kept the lights in the layout room fairly dim, and took the photo. And then I used Photoshop to insert what looks like the sun coming up. The sun doesn't come up like that here, but we do have some very nice sunsets. And so this is actually a photo of a sunset that I've taken from our house looking west and then inserted into the photo. And I will show you how to do that. The next photo is also in Merced. This is the yards. This is where photo stacking comes in. Photo stacking is a process where you take several photos and combine them on your computer into a single photo that everything is in focus. So this is a good technique that photographers use to draw your eye into the picture. The next photo is again photo stacking in order to get everything in that entire train in focus. The train is just past the Santa Fe crossing. I also photoshopped in the sky. I do have a regular painted backdrop there, but it's pretty just single color. Having the sky and the clouds really makes that photo pop. This is a prototype photo of the YV taken in either 1944 or 1945 by Charles Clegg. He and Lucius Beebe would join up and photograph railroads all over the country. They would go up to a railroad like the YV ahead of time, talk to the engineer, and tell him, we're going to be out on photographing your train, and when you see a sign that we're going to put out, have your firemen crank up the oil so we get a lot of smoke. So this is a classic Beebe or Clegg photo. So I used that as an inspiration for the next photo, which is on my layout. Again, photo stacking to get the whole train focused, but then I also used Photoshop to take the smoke from Clegg's photo and insert it into my photo. My engine is not on fire there. The next photo is my favorite of all the photos I've taken of my layout. This is taken up at incline, shows a train coming downhill, passing loaded log cars. Back in 2000, I was in charge of publicity for the national convention coming up in San Jose, and I asked Lou Sassy to come out and photograph a number of layouts that were going to be open for the convention, including mine. And I wanted to just see how he took photos of layouts. And one of the tricks that he did, he was taking a photo of incline, and he wanted some shadows in the front, and he asked if I had an extra tree sitting around, which I did. So I held the tree up when he took the photo. So that's what I did here. There's too much sunlight right in the front here. And so what I did is I had an extra tree laying around. I clipped it to a tripod, set up my camera and the lights, held it in front of the light to cast the shadow you see in the foreground. And so in this particular one, instead of photoshopping sky in, what I really needed to do is Photoshop a mountain in. Because if you were standing in this location on the prototype, you would be seeing across the river and the mountain on the other side. So I found a photo I liked of the same general area, lightened it because it's further away, and then Photoshopped that in. So now we're in the layout room, and I want to take a picture, show you how I'm doing it, and so forth. Things you might want to keep in mind. Very rarely have I taken a picture of my layout from a high view. Only if I'm trying to show an entire scene. But if you want realistic photos, you need to think like a photographer back in the day taking pictures, and they would be down at eye level. So a lot of times what I want to do is I want to get right down to next to the rails to take my picture. As far as backdrops, as I mentioned earlier, those can be changed out. So don't worry too much about what's in the backdrop, since you can either delete it, crop it, whatever. Lighting, room lighting can be fine for many photos, but sometimes having an extra light can add a little snap to the photo, so it's not kind of monotoned or whatever. So I'll show you how to do that too. Software. We're going to be using two different software packages. First one is Helicon, which is stacking software. What you can do is take 3, 4, 20 photos, put them in your computer, and this program will stack them and take all the parts that are in focus and make one photo out of it. I bought this software back in 2006. I don't know why now, but I had a suspicion it was being sold from Russia. And I don't remember what gave me that thought, but I saved every email I had with the firm, but they came through. The software was $115 for a lifetime version. And when I first ordered it, you can download the software, but it won't run without a PIN number or a key number. And so I did that. I paid for it, downloaded it, and I was expecting an email from them, and I didn't get an email. So I waited an extra day, and I finally emailed them and said, I bought it. I need the PIN number. And they sent it to me, and it worked, and everything was fine. A couple of years later, I upgraded to a new computer, loaded it, it wouldn't run. Got in touch with them, they gave me another PIN number, and it was running. So I think I've done that 3 times now. They keep improving it. It's extremely fast. You'll be surprised how fast it is. There is a free software version of that. I saw somebody on a YouTube video using it, and it seemed like it was extremely slow. He waited and waited, and finally said, well, I actually speeded the film up to get it finished. I would not use that. If you just want to take pictures and share them with friends, it's probably okay. But if you want to get them published, I would not depend on that software to give you what Helicon Focus will do. And it's Helicon, Helicon, Focus. It's easy to find. And they have a couple versions. One's the Pro version or something, I don't know. This is a basic version. I think it's $115, $120 now for a lifetime. The other software you need is Photoshop. Amazon was carrying Photoshop 2019, which is one I use, for $49. Now it is Photoshop 2021 and is $99. You can download it and so forth, or get a disc, either way. I use it a lot, not only for model railroad stuff, but some other stuff, vacation pictures occasionally, that kind of thing. I'll show you what it can do. It can fix all kinds of things. So first, talk about equipment. You need a tripod. Now this is a much more sturdy tripod than you need. That's because I bought it when I was using my Nikon, and that's a heavy camera. But you want to make sure you get one that's tall enough to see all portions of your layout. They do have ones that are not quite tall enough, but there's extensions you can screw into it and do it that way. One thing you might want to think about is if you get one that's not as sturdy as you think it should be, see if it has a hook and you can hang a bag of rock or something down under it to make it sturdy, because what you don't want it to do is change the scene. If it moves a little and it's right back where it was, you're okay. We're on a carpeted floor, so you actually saw it move quite a bit when I touched it. If you're on a regular floor, that won't be so much of a worry. You also want an arm that will extend out, so if you want to shoot way in here, you can get your camera in. And you'll notice I'm not using a camera. This is my iPad. This is a Air 2 version. What I like about it over my Nikon is it can adapt to the lighting. My Nikon, if I've got floods in here or fluorescence, I'll get as close as I can and then try to correct that in Photoshop. One thing that my Nikon cannot do is get down low and give you the shot that a rail fan would take. So this lets me get really low. And the other thing you need is a way to hang your iPad or your phone. You can use a phone. I'm more comfortable with my iPad, but they make them. This device right here was $8. You can get an arm that wasn't too bad. A tripod, maybe $140. So you're out some money, but you're going to be able to take much better photos. When I was out here yesterday looking around deciding what I wanted to take a photo, I decided to take a photo of one of the engines on the turntable. So my first shot was from here, and I shot a number of pictures and so forth. Looked at the final result, and I was not happy with it. It was just kind of blah. It didn't strike me as different. So then I took another photo from this location. Now the engine's kind of on an angle. It's a little more interesting and so forth. That worked out well, but it didn't have the spark that I wanted. So I added a light. This is the lights I'm using. Again, this was for my Nikon. I have a pair of these. But try just regular floodlights, something that, what you want is something that gives you direct light as opposed to light spreading out. So turn this on, and now I'm ready to take some photos. The first thing I'm going to do is touch up here and choose the 10-second delay. What this does is when I touch somewhere on the screen to take a picture, it delays it for 10 seconds. That gives it time for the iPad to settle down if it's moving, so forth. And so I'm going to start by focusing up here and taking the picture. And that's going to count down. Okay, another picture. This time I'm going to touch up here on the engine, and what that does is it focuses the iPad on where I put my finger, and then we'll take the picture. So we're going to end up with pictures that have been focused at different places from here to the roundhouse. So now we'll go up here. And when you do this, you want to pick an area that it can focus on. In other words, it can't focus on the sky, for example. So you want to have something where you've touched that has different colors so that it can focus. Okay, and then one final picture. Okay, so let's go process these. Okay, we're back in the shop, and I have downloaded the photos from my iPad to my computer. So this is Helicon Focus, and we're going to start by loading those. So go to the folder where they are, click on one, Control A picks all of them, open, and you can see in this photo this is out of focus, and that was intentional because I'm going to crop this out. But this is in focus, this is out of focus, and so forth. So we click on Render, and that's it. That's all the time it took. Here's the final photo. Here's the first photo we started with. So we have to save, and it'll come up with this really long thing that it's put in. At least that makes it easy when you're looking for it. You know where it is. Okay, and we're done with that step. This is Photoshop. So first thing we're going to do is open that photo. There it is. And crop it. And over here on the side are all the tools. The crop tool is this one right here. So we draw a box and right about there. The next step normally is to go to Image, Resize, Image Size, and you'll see that this is 300 dpi by 10 inch wide. 300 is the minimum that magazines and books need, so we're good. If this had been 96, then we would need to change things. So we do OK. Then one last step is go to Adjust Lighting and Levels. And this is a graph of the lights to the darks. And it looks pretty good, but let me show you what you can do if you want to change something. So you can make it lighter. See, it's getting all washed out. Or you can make it darker. Or you can take the middle one, make it lighter, or make it darker. This is a good distribution. Sometimes you'll take a photo and it'll be flat, and then the graph starts. What you want to do then is take that thing and move it to the start of the graph. That's the place to start. Now, this, I think if it was just a little darker, that looks pretty good. Okay, and save. So first thing we did was to use Helicon Focus, take all the pictures and make one picture out of it, bring it into Photoshop, check the size, so forth. And we have I think it's a pretty good photo. Okay, now I'm going to use Photoshop for a task that's a little more involved, but it's easy to do once you figure out what's going on. And so here's a photo I've taken. I use stacking, so this is in focus. Everything back here is in focus. But here's the problem. All of this stuff up here. So what I want to do is replace this and this with sky. So the first thing I'm going to do is crop it. And again, the crop tool is right here. And we'll cut it off right there. Now what we want to do is get rid of all of this kind of stuff. So we can zoom in. And the first tool we're going to use is Magic Wand. It's right over here. And we're going to click on this stuff. And it grabbed. Everything of the same color, it grabs. And we hit delete. It's gone. Now there's some up here a little bit. If I were doing this for a publication, I would go in and grab all that too. The problem now is to get into this stuff right up here. One way we can do that is to take the eraser and just kind of go right around on the tree level. Okay, now we take the magic wand. And kind of get a little closer. Now we can take this tool, which is right up here, which is a lasso, and let me show you how this works. We just draw a circle and come back to the start and hit delete. Same thing here. And okay, so the next step is to find a sky to put in there. So I have this folder which I call Sky Library, and it's photos that I found online, photos that I've taken, like these are photos up near where the railroad used to run, so forth. And I will pick a photo to use as one that I can take the sky from. So I'm going to pick this one. So now that's opened up. So we have the one we were working on is still up, and we have this guy. We will draw a box around this, and Control C or copy. Go back to here, and now we got to do one more thing before we can do this. We're going to click on the background and make a duplicate layer. Now you can see what's going on here. This is the first layer, and that's the second layer. You can turn these off. I'll turn that one off. You click on that, it makes that one the one you're working on. Control A, delete. And you say, where did my picture go? Well, I still have it. Remember, we've copied the sky, so now we're going to paste it. I'm going to turn this off. This is the active one. There's the sky. So we move that up to the top. Turn this back on. Now we take the magic wand, click on that, and there's your sky. Now, the last step is we still have these three layers, and if you were to save that, it would not save it as a JPEG. So one more step is to go to Layer, Flatten Images. Now we have one photo, and you go to Save. One step that I did, which you may not have noticed, is when the sky was all white, I clicked on it, hit All, and then I touched Delete on my keyboard. That's what deleted it. So that was kind of the essence of what Photoshop can do. I know it's a lot of information, and there's a lot of other things you can do with Photoshop that are very simple. I do have a clinic. If you go to my website, which is YosemiteValleyRR.com, and click on clinics, there's one right here is Photoshop Elements as a modeling tool. Is just about using Photoshop. So that might be kind of helpful. Another thing to keep in mind is, which I did, was cropping. And so if you look at this photo, this is a photo I took of the layout and ran it through Helicon Focus and then cropped it. And so you can see the cropped version. Everything else got out of the way. The front of the layout is gone, so forth. So don't always think about rectangular standard size photos. Think in terms of what it will take to show my layout the most realistic way possible. Here's another example that I took for an article, and you can see there's a couple problems in the photo itself. One is there's a seam in the backdrop, which I just used the cloning tool to get rid of, and I cropped it, sharpened it, and got rid of the stuff in the foreground, and you have another good photo. So that's it for this time. I hope you learned some things, maybe got some inspiration for finishing sections of your layout and getting photos taken of them and maybe getting them published. So we'll see you next time.